My father's golden child turned out to be gay and he blamed it all on me. When he couldn't make my brother like him, he threw us out. Years later, he is calling me with this bad news. Hey Reddit, I 29 male need to get this off my chest. I'm living with my family, my dad 58, stepmom 49, and younger brother 25. I'll use fake names to protect everyone's privacy. My family's really conservative and old-fashioned. Dad's ex-military, so he's big on discipline and respect from us kids. Growing up was tough. Dad was away a lot, serving in various overseas deployments. Our mom worked most of the time at a local bank, trying to make ends meet. Their marriage wasn't great, it was arranged by our grandparents, and mom never really loved dad. They argued constantly when he was home, usually about money or his long absences. I remember one particularly bad fight when I was about 7. Dad had just returned from a 6-month deployment, and mom was furious about some bills that had piled up. They screamed at each other for hours while my brother Jake and I huddled in our shared bedroom, trying to block out the noise with our pillows. When I was 9 and Jake was 5, our mom left us for another guy, her coworker at the bank. Dad was deployed at the time, so our grandmother came to stay with us for a few months. I still remember the day mom left. She packed a single suitcase, hugged us goodbye, and promised she'd call soon. She never did. Dad came home early from his deployment when he heard the news. He was a mess, angry, hurt, and completely lost when it came to taking care of 2 young boys on his own. He threw himself into his work, leaving us with a series of babysitters and nannies. As we got older, Dad tried to instill his military discipline in us. He'd wake us up at dawn for physical training, insist on perfect grades, and punish us harshly for any perceived disrespect. I tried my best to meet his standards, but Jake always struggled. He was more artistic and sensitive, which Dad saw as weakness. Now Dad's retired and home all the time. Our relationship is kinda strained. He clearly favors Jake, probably because Jake reminds him of mom. I work as a store manager at the local supermarket. I had to drop out of college in my 2nd year to help support the family when Dad got injured and couldn't work for a while. Jake's in college now, studying art history. Dad's not thrilled about his choice of major, but at least Jake's getting the education I couldn't. I've got a girlfriend, Sarah. We met at work about 3 years ago. She's great, understanding, patient, and way smarter than me. Things are good with us, despite all the family drama. Dad met his second wife, Linda, about 10 years ago at a veteran support group. They dated for a year before getting married. She's okay, I guess. Better than having no mom around. She tries to keep the peace between Dad and us, but she usually defers to him on everything. So here's where everything went to hell. Last week, Dad walked in on Jake naked with another guy in his room. Jake thought the house was empty and brought his study buddy over. Forgot to lock the door. Rookie mistake. Dad completely lost it. But instead of being mad at Jake, he turned all his anger on me. Said it was my fault Jake's gay because I didn't instill discipline in him. What the hell, right? I'm his brother, not his parent. Dad's been on a rampage ever since. He keeps lecturing me about family values and how I need to set Jake straight. As if that's even possible. Or my job. Jake's an adult, for crying out loud. I tried talking to Jake, but he just shuts down. Can't blame him. Must be terrifying to be outed like that, especially in our family. I remember when Jake was about 14, he tried to talk to Dad about maybe joining the drama club at school. Dad shut that down immediately, said it wasn't a manly pursuit. I wonder now if Jake was trying to tell us something even back then. Sarah's been great through all this. She thinks Dad's being ridiculous, which he is. But she doesn't get how scary he can be when he's angry. Military training and all that. I've seen him break a door with his bare hands during an argument. It's not pretty. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm being torn apart. I love Jake and want to support him, but I also don't want to lose my relationship with Dad. And I'm worried about Jake. He's barely left his room since it happened. Has anyone dealt with something like this? How do you handle a parent who won't accept their kid's sexuality? And how do I support Jake without completely destroying my relationship with Dad? I'm so stressed I can barely sleep. Work's been a nightmare. I keep zoning out and making mistakes. Yesterday, I messed up a huge inventory order, and my boss chewed me out. Sarah's worried about me, but I don't know how to explain how messed up everything is. Part of me wants to just take Jake and leave. But where would we go? I can barely afford my own place, let alone support both of us. And Jake needs to finish school. He's always been the smart one in the family, and I don't want him to have to drop out like I did. I've tried talking to Linda, but she just defers to Dad on everything. Says it's not her place to get involved. Thanks for nothing, I guess. I thought maybe she'd be more understanding, given that her own brother is gay, something she only told me in confidence and Dad doesn't know. I'm at my wit's end here. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the support and advice, everyone. I'll try to respond to comments when I can, but things are pretty hectic right now. Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support and advice on my last post. A lot has happened in the past week and not much of it good. Jake's been staying in his room most of the time. He only comes out when he absolutely has to, usually just to grab food or use the bathroom. I've tried to talk to him, but he barely says 2 words to me. I can hear him crying sometimes at night, and it breaks my heart. Dad's anger has mostly been directed at me. I guess it's easier for him to blame me than accept that his favorite son is gay. He's been going through old photo albums, pointing out times when he thinks I should have corrected Jake's behavior. Like when Jake wanted to take ballet lessons at 10, Dad said no, of course, or when he chose to do art club instead of football in high school. Dad's been on my case constantly about fixing Jake. He wants me to lecture Jake about family values and being straight. As if that would change anything. I've tried explaining that's not how it works, but Dad won't listen. He keeps bringing up his old army buddies, talking about how real men behave. It's exhausting and infuriating. I've been trying to talk to Jake when I can, but he's not very responsive. Can't blame him, really. This whole situation sucks. I did manage to slip him a note telling him I support him no matter what. He didn't say anything, but I saw him clutching the note later, so I hope it helped a little. Last night things came to a head. Jake finally snapped. So, he came storming out of his room during dinner and just started yelling at everyone. Said there was nothing wrong with him, that he was born this way, and that he wasn't going to change for anyone. He talked about how he's been hiding who he is for years, afraid of disappointing everyone. It was heartbreaking to hear. Dad lost it. Started screaming about disgrace and family honor. Jake yelled back. It was ugly. I tried to calm them both down, but that just made Dad turn on me. said I was encouraging Jake's lifestyle. Linda just sat there, looking horrified but not saying anything. In the end, Dad told us both to get out. Said he couldn't have that kind of behavior in his house. Jake stormed out immediately, grabbing a backpack he must have had packed just in case. I tried to reason with Dad, but he wouldn't budge. He just kept saying we were no longer welcome in his home. So now we're both out on our own. Jake's staying with a friend. I'm pretty sure it's the guy Dad caught him with, but I didn't ask. I ended up crashing at Sarah's place. Her roommate's not thrilled, but it's temporary until I can find my own place. I'm worried sick about Jake. He's not answering my texts or calls. I hope he's okay. I feel like I failed him somehow, like I should have done more to protect him. I keep thinking about all the times over the years when he seemed sad or withdrawn, wondering if he was struggling with his identity even then. Work's been a nightmare. I can barely focus. I almost got into an accident driving the forklift yesterday because I was so distracted. My boss has been understanding so far, but I don't know how long that'll last. Sarah's been amazing through all this. She's even offered to let me move in with her permanently, but I don't want to put that pressure on our relationship. Plus, her place is tiny. We drive each other crazy. I've tried calling Dad a few times, but he's not picking up. Linda answered once, said he needs time to process everything. Whatever that means. I asked her to look out for him, make sure he's eating and taking his blood pressure medication. She promised she would. I'm looking at apartments, but everything's so expensive. I don't know how I'm going to afford rent and still have enough to help Jake if he needs it. Maybe I need to look for a better paying job, but the thought of job hunting on top of everything else is overwhelming. I feel like my whole life's fallen apart in just a week. How did things go so wrong so fast? Has anyone else been through something like this? How do you rebuild your life when your family kicks you out? I'm trying to stay positive, but it's hard. I miss my bed. I miss having a real home. I even miss Dad, as messed up as that sounds. Despite everything, he's still my father. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Edit. Wow, I'm overwhelmed by all the support. Thank you all so much. I'll try to respond to comments when I can. Update 2. Hey Reddit. It's been a year since my last update. I wish I had better news to share. I've been living with Sarah for the past year. We got a small apartment together after I left Dad's house. It's been an adjustment, but we're making it work. The place is tiny, and we sometimes get on each other's nerves, but overall it's been good. I'm grateful to have her in my life. I'm still at the same job, but I've been taking night classes to finish my degree. It's tough balancing work and school, but I'm determined to make it happen. Hoping it'll lead to better opportunities down the line. For the first few months after moving out, I tried to keep in touch with Jake. He'd respond to my texts occasionally, but he was always vague about what he was up to. I got the feeling he was trying to distance himself from the family and everything that had happened. I tried not to push too hard, figuring he'd reach out when he was ready. I hadn't heard from Dad in months. I tried calling a few times early on, but he never picked up. I figured he needed space, so I stopped trying after a while. Linda would text me updates now and then, mostly just to let me know they were okay. Then, last week I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Dad. He had some news. Bad news. Jake passed away 2 months ago. Dad didn't give me many details, just said that Jake had gotten mixed up with some bad people after he left home. Drugs were involved. I don't know exactly what happened, and I'm not sure I want to. Dad's voice sounded hollow, empty. I've never heard him like that before. I feel like I'm drowning. How could this happen? Jake was so young, so full of life. I keep thinking about all the things I should have done differently. Maybe if I'd tried harder to stay in touch, or if I'd found a way to support him financially, things would be different. I can't stop replaying our last conversation in my head, wishing I'd said something different, something that could have changed the course of events. Dad wants me to come home. Says he's sorry for everything and wants to make amends. But I don't know if I can face him. Every time I think about going back to that house, I feel sick. All I can think about is Jake, and how we failed him. Sarah's been incredible through all this. She's offered to come with me if I decide to go back, but I don't think I'm ready for that. I'm not sure I'll ever be ready. She's been my rock, holding me when I break down, making sure I eat and sleep. I don't know what I'd do without her. I'm angry. At Dad, at myself, at the world. How could we let things get so bad that Jake felt he had nowhere to turn? How could I have lost touch with my own brother? I keep thinking about all the times I could have reached out, could have done more. I've been going to a grief counselor. It's helping a little, I guess. But nothing seems to fill this hole in my chest. I find myself looking at old photos of Jake and me as kids, back when things were simpler. There's one of us at the beach, building a sandcastle together. Jake's laughing, his whole face lit up with joy. I can't reconcile that happy kid with what happened. I don't know what to do about Dad. Part of me wants to forgive him, to have some kind of family again. But another part of me blames him for everything. If he hadn't kicked us out, maybe Jake would still be alive. Maybe if he'd been more accepting, things would be different. I know it's not that simple, but it's hard not to think that way. Work's been understanding. They've given me some time off to process everything. I'm grateful, but being alone with my thoughts isn't always good. I find myself replaying memories of Jake, wondering if there were signs I missed, things I should have seen. I keep thinking about the last time I saw Jake. He looked so lost, so hurt. I should have done more. I should have been there for him. I remember hugging him before he left that night, telling him it would be okay. I wish I could go back to that moment, hold on tighter, never let him go. Has anyone else lost a sibling like this? How do you move on? How do you forgive yourself? I feel like I'm carrying this weight around with me everywhere I go. It's hard to focus on anything else. I'm lost, Reddit. I don't know how to move forward from here. Any advice would be appreciated.